I don't know why I'm nervous. Oh my gosh, I'm not nervous. It's fine. I do this all the time. It's just because I have a live audience watching me right now. I'm on TikTok Live, and I'm scared. It's fine. Okay. So good. Hey y'all, welcome back or welcome to the Pickle Jar. This is What's the Dill? I'm your host, Mackenzie Pickle. It's officially week 2 of Spooktober. We're watching a different Halloween/horror movie every week during the month of October. And this week, we are reviewing one of the most iconic 90s horror films, Scream. Grab your popcorn and your Ghostface mask, and let's get into the review. Before we jump into the review, I want to give a little background and some history. I did do some research. The film came out in 1996. It actually came out in December, which is not a super popular time, or at least not back then, to release a movie that wasn't Christmas related, especially a horror film that kind of screams Halloween, you know? It was directed by Wes Craven and written by Kevin Williamson, and Scream actually revitalized the horror genre and slasher film specifically during a time where the genre was experiencing a lull. In the early 90s, there was kind of a lower rate in producing horror films or even people enjoying them and everything, but 1996 Scream comes out and it sort of gave this rebirth to this genre and it became iconic. Also, fun fact, the movie was originally named Scary Movie, which, if you don't know, there is a popular movie franchise called Scary Movie. It came out in the early 2000s originally. There's been a few installments of it, but Scary Movie is a franchise that sort of parodies and makes fun of movies in the horror genre, slasher genre, and mystery genre. And I thought it was pretty interesting because, you know, Scream was almost named Scary Movie, but they changed it to Scream. Then Scary Movie hits the scene. And they, again, make fun of and parody a lot of popular horror movies. But the plot of the Scary Movie franchise, for the most part, follows a similar plot line to I Know What You Did Last Summer and, most notably, Scream. So I wonder if that's why they named the Scary Movie franchise Scary Movie, because they knew that Scream was almost named Scary Movie. I don't know, that might be wishful thinking, but it's pretty interesting. Scream does take a satirical approach to the slasher film. It references so many popular horror films, the two most referenced being Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween. However, there are lots of other iconic references like little one-liners, maybe something similar in a different shot. There are just tons of little references. You could go through and pick them all out. I have read a few articles that talked about them. I'm not going to talk about them all here, but it's pretty interesting. If you want to go see every specific reference, definitely go check out the Scream Wiki. It's pretty cool. I think the satire is what makes this film so incredible to me. And specifically, I think that satire and sort of making fun of the horror movie tropes that we see pretty much in every horror movie, I think it was really well executed by the character of Randy. You know, more characters do point out the hypocrisy of the spectacle of horror movies and stereotypes and things like that. I mean, Sydney herself says one and then does the exact same trope. We'll talk about that later. But Randy is the character that is this huge horror movie buff. He knows everything, and he like gives the rules for how to survive a horror movie, like all these different things, and he constantly has lines that point you to the plot of the movie and what's happening. It's pretty interesting. He's very meta in his lines. I don't think he understands that he is doing that in some parts, but he serves as sort of this reality check throughout the whole movie, and he does tell us what is happening. Like, he tells us who the killer is at the very beginning of the movie, but no one believes him. One last thing before we get into my notes: casting Drew Barrymore, who was very famous already at the time. I feel like everybody knows Drew Barrymore now, especially, but back then, like, she was a huge child star and she was really big in the 90s. Everyone knew her. They originally wanted her to be Sydney, but she decided to take the role of Casey, which I think is iconic because Casey is killed, spoiler alert, in the first 15 minutes of the film. I kind of wish I could time travel to go see that in the movie theater when it happened, because I just know that that shocked everyone. It shocked me here watching it. You know that a lot of people went to go see that movie because Drew Barrymore's in it, you know? It was a very good marketing technique of having this big name actress in this horror film, especially in a lull of horror movies, and she's in this slasher film. Everyone thinks she's the main character because, I mean, if you look at the movie posters, she's very prominent, especially for a character that is killed in the first 12 minutes. I believe the opening scene does last 12 minutes, so less than 15. It was actually her idea, as stated, to be Casey and to be killed first. To Drew Barrymore, she wanted this role because she said, having someone like her in this film where they think that she's going to be the main character, but she gets killed off, immediately, that would shock everyone and it'll keep up suspense, and it would also force you to throw out everything that you thought you knew about slasher films, and that's exactly what this does. I mean, back then, and even now sometimes, if you have a big name in a horror movie, they're most likely making it to the end, but having Drew Barrymore die within 12 minutes of the movie starting, I just know that rocked everyone's world, and I think that it's iconic. She's an icon. What I want to do next is something I really enjoy. Let me know if you don't like it. If you don't, I will stop doing this. I think it's cool. I don't know a lot of people that do this when they review movies. However, they might. Don't quote me on that. Okay? Whatever. It's fine. I'm not saying I came up with this. I didn't. I think it's kind of fun for you to see what's going on in my head while I'm watching a movie. I've done this before, but when I'm watching a movie that I know I'm going to review, I actively take notes while I'm watching. I think it's really cool for me to read you my notes as I watched it happen so that you could see what my genuine live reaction was during the movie. No, you're not watching me watch it. However, you kind of get a little break into my head, into what I was thinking, into what my actual experience was while watching it. I just want to read out all these notes to you, and maybe we'll stop during a couple of them, talk about them together. But if you would rather me just continue doing the whole, I take notes and then I summarize them, you don't actually get to hear my raw, real-time notes, then let me know that too. For now, for this episode, we are going to jump right into the notes. First note, Drew Barrymore, we just talked about this. Drew Barrymore being cast just to be killed at the beginning is goated, iconic. Quote, "I'll gut you like a fish." Okay, Grinch. Oh, I remember writing this. Ghostface says, "I'll gut you like a fish." And if you don't know, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the live action movie, is one of my all-time favorite movies. I did a review on this podcast, so go check it out. I love Jim Carrey. I love that movie. Obviously, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the live action, came out after Scream. I was simply just, that's where my brain went. But it's cool. The Grinch references Scream. The voice modulation is so good. It's iconic, Quote, "His name wouldn't have to be Steve, would it?" Chills, OMG. That was crazy. When Casey's talking about her boyfriend. I have a lot of notes for this opening scene, and it's only 12 minutes. Quote, "I want to play a game." Okay, Saw reference. I associate want to play a game or playing a game, that kind of thing, with Saw, and I did look it up. Scream is actually first. It came out before Saw. So it's the first iteration of the whole playing a game type of thing. However, it becomes Saw's thing later because Jigsaw is so into puzzles and things like that. But it started with Scream. Pretty cool. All caps. "OMG, Steve's guts. That is sickening. So psycho." That was crazy. I did not expect to see that. That was really gory. Again, the originator of the play a game statement, not Saw. Nice. Asking questions about horror movies is so cool. Of them, that's the game that they're playing, is asking questions about horror movies. All caps. "Why would you go outside, you idiot?" All caps. "Also, stop looking inside." The next 5 are in all caps, okay? "OMG, OMG, OMG, iconic opening scene, OMG. The shot of her on the ground, OMG. OMG, 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 the bloody hand on the mask. Casey is dead, OMG. I was really intense while watching this. I was on the edge of my seat. Killing her right outside when her parents are home is insane. That was crazy to me. The killer is actively at their house, and the parents are investigating the whole Jiffy Pop popcorn thing, which, by the way, really cool time element of showing how quickly all of this progressed from just regular to chaotic. That was pretty cool. I loved having that. All caps, "OMG, Casey hanging is crazy." I love how it jumps from that to my literal next note being, "Billy and Sydney, aw, what?" Oh, man. Her shoving his hand, ha ha ha. Quote, "Would you settle for a PG-13 relationship? LMAO. This is mainly, a lot of these I did put direct quotes in there because I thought they were so fun. All caps. "OMG, OMG, Courtney Cox, OMG, OMG. I'm a huge Friends fan." Tatum, OMG, hi. I loved her outfits. Her costumes were great. "Dewey knows Sydney? Question mark. I later looked it up. Dewey is Tatum's older brother, but I was just so confused. I was like, what? All caps. "Matthew Lillard, oh, my king." I love Matthew Lillard. You know, I'm wearing a Scooby-Doo shirt today. I love Matthew Lillard, okay? I just love him so much. Quote, that is so sexist. The killer could be a woman. That's from Tatum. And then Stu starts talking about, no, it would have to be a man, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm pretty sure Sydney asks, you know, how could you even gut a person? And then Stu goes into this very detailed of like how you could do it. So I wrote, Stu, what the hell? And then I said, Randy is killing me, LMAO. I love Randy. But the next round I put, Billy giving Stu that look, question mark, OMG, it's kind of obvious. Okay, spoiler alert. I went into watching this movie knowing that Billy and Stu were accomplices for this. So I did know from the beginning. So I understand that my view of the movie was tainted in that aspect. So I did try to watch it from the point of view of, I don't know anything. I don't know who the killer would be. So some of my notes do reflect that. However, I do think that scene of him being like, stop, like he's basically telling him to stop talking with that look, and it's pretty creepy. It lets you, that's your first suspicion of, what are you doing? Who is that? You know, who's the killer? I think it might be Billy. All caps. Maureen Prescott was found raped and murdered, and that was Sydney's mom. Is Randy the voice? Question mark. He loves horror movies. Again, he's one of the obvious choices because he does love horror movies. My next note, quote, I'm not Randy. Okay. Some of my notes just crack me up. I can't. All caps. Sydney, why would you go outside, you idiot? And you left the door open. OMG. Quote, you hang up on me, you'll die just like your mother. That was cold. Chilling, actually. I was shocked. Some of the things they say, like, just insane. Okay. Then I put, wait, Billy knew she'd be alone at the house when Ghostface attacks her because he was there the night before when her dad said he was leaving and going out of town. Duh. Okay, so earlier in the night when she's talking to Ghostface, Sydney, she says something about horror movies and says like, it's insulting, you know, like some girl who can't act runs upstairs instead of out the front door during like a killing sequence in a slasher film. And then she is forced to run up these stairs instead of out the front door because she locked the front door, can't get out in time. Ghostface is chasing her, so she runs upstairs. She does the exact thing that she said was stupid about horror movies. Hence the whole satire thing that Scream's got going on. It's so good. I love when movies do that. I put, then he drops the phone. OMG, OMG. This is when Billy just so happens to be there to rescue Sydney. All caps. Dewey, OMG. Arresting Billy, OMG. I'm sorry, there's a lot of OMGs in here. Dewey is Tatum's brother. That's when I found it out. Okay, it took me a while. Just all caps, Gail! Then, when Billy's being interviewed, I said, it looks like there's blood on Billy's collar. All caps, OMG, Sydney punched Gail, OMG. All caps, OMG, calling Tatum's house instead for Sydney, OMG. Then I put, but they called so that Billy could get off and out of jail because Sydney would tell the police, you know, that Ghostface called her while she was at Tatum's house, which means Billy has an alibi. Like, that's pretty crazy. It throws them off the scent. I think they really did think, like, they were very smart in the details for some of that. Framing Cotton for the murder of her mom. Oh, I put, quote, couldn't have been me. I was in jail. Nice. Way to go, Billy. Like, okay, he's being a little defensive. All caps. Billy, what? Saying it's been a year, you should get over it, about her mom dying? When you killed her, first of all, I put, what? She lost her mom. And then, whoa, Mr. Hembry throwing those shears around? I love them making everyone seem like they could be it. That was crazy. He was like, well, how would you feel if you had your guts pulled on the outside or something? And he like dragged these like shears down this student t-shirt. Hello? That was so creepy. It so could have been him, but obviously it wasn't. Then, like, the two girls talking in the bathroom, I put, quote, her mother was a tramp. OMG. Like, that's so insensitive, you know? Also, Billy saying that his mom left and he got over it. Yeah, by killing Sid's mom. What do you mean? Get over it. Your mom died a year ago. My mom left my dad, and I'm over it now. No, you're not, actually, because you killed her mom. Not Gail and Dewey flirting. Parentheses, didn't they get married in real life? Yes, they did. Courtney Cox and David Arquette, who play, respectively, Gail and Dewey, met on the set of Scream, and they dated for a while, and then they got married, but they're divorced now. But they did get married at one point. Not the principal with the mask, OMG, OMG, and then all caps, Mr. Hembry killed. Immediately, like, okay, so it's not him. Wow, I'm scared. Randy quoted Prom Night Revisited, OMG, OMG, he's onto them the whole time. Randy is onto Billy and Stu the whole time. Maybe not Stu entirely, but he's onto Billy. And then I put, way to go, Randy, you know it. Quote, the dad's a red herring. Billy did it. Randy? This is what I mean. Randy is literally telling the audience don't believe that the dad is the killer because there's a lot of, the dad's missing, what happened, and people were theorizing that her father killed the mom and tried to kill Sydney. And Randy straight up is like, the dad is a red herring. Billy did it. He's pointing us to the character who is the murderer the entire time. The main one, at least. And then I put OMG phone calls from Sydney's dad. And then I put not Gail littering, which I think it was technically Kenny is his name, I think, the TV station cameraman. And then I put not Stu in the Hefner robe. He looks so good. Okay, I love Matthew Lillard. And then I put the music is so good for the scares. Jamie Lee Curtis mentioned Scream Queen, which she is. Love her. I have to point out, we're at the part of the movie where it's the party scene at Stu's house, which is the longest scene in the entire movie. And I did look it up, and fun fact, the crew made t-shirts that said, I survived scene 118, because the scene took, I think, 21 days to film just that one party scene. I think it's a 45-minute long sequence, the whole thing at Stu's house. It's just really cool. I want one of those shirts, anyone have one and can send it to me, please let me know. All caps. I said, Dewey letting the underage kids drink. What? He's a deputy and he walks into this party and he's like, you're not old enough to drink that, and takes the beer from this kid, and then he's like, I'm just kidding, just don't drive. What? OMG Gail hiding a camera. That's crazy. The garage is so freaky. And then OMG Ghostface. Tatum, OMG, OMG, OMG. Can I be the helpless victim? OMG. What? You are the helpless victim. That's what you are in that scene. All caps. OMG, OMG. The garage door. No. OMG. She got crushed. No. That was gruesome. And then I put, Stu, bro, what? I don't know why I said that. I don't remember what that scene is for, but also Stu, bro, what? All the time. And then I said, Randy wants to be with Sid. Then I put, man, I just love Stu. Okay, clearly, I have bittersweet feelings for Stu. Quote, it's all a movie. That is Billy talking to Sydney. And then he says, you can't pick your genre. It's so meta. It's making fun of itself. It's pointing to yes, Scream is a movie, That is when Sydney decides to give up her virginity to Billy, and they're having this whole hot and heavy session upstairs while everyone else in the party is downstairs watching Halloween, and Randy is narrating what is happening, and he's saying there are certain rules to survive a horror movie, blah 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 blah, and then he says, quote, only virgins can do that, and he's talking about only virgins can outsmart the killer and survive and win the whole night, and they can actually live. I did take a horror movie class in college, and that is so prevalent in most every horror movie, especially from when this came out from before. It's crazy. Him saying that as Sydney is doing this upstairs with Billy, she is losing the ability to outsmart him in that instance, whatever. And then I wrote down the rules that Randy says. So 1, you can never have sex. 2, you can never drink or do drugs. And 3, never ever say, I'll be right back, because you won't. But then, Stu is like, I'll be right back, whatever, when he leaves. And I love Matthew Lillard. Okay, I just love him. OMG, making Dewey seem creepy and like the killer too. I thought we'd walk. And he's like, what? You're not scared, are you? Everyone. It really does keep you guessing, because just when you think you know something, something else happens. Then I put, do you want another beer from Stu? But then he says bye to everybody. Wasn't the beer in the garage where Tatum's body is? And he doesn't say a word about it because he knew, obviously. And I put, oh, Randy, oh no, they left him alone. Which, why would you guys leave him alone? Then I said, everyone is leaving. OMG, Gail and Dewey, because that's when they were off alone, whatever. Neil Prescott's car. He's there. They're worried that he's still the killer, whatever. And then, after Sydney and Billy have sex, she says, you're one phone call. So who'd you call? Babe, wrap it up. Figure it out. And Billy's like, well, I called my dad. And then Sydney says, Sheriff Burke called your dad. And, then Billy's like, you still believe that it was me? You still believe it? Whatever. Billy, shut up. We know it was you. So then Billy's like, what do I have to do to prove to you that I'm not the killer? And then Ghostface comes in and stabs the crap out of him. Hello? I said, OMG, wait, what, Billy? What? And then wiping the knife clean, crazy, chilling. When Ghostface, cleans off Billy's blood and then goes after Sid, hello? Iconic. And then I just put, OMG, OMG, Sydney. She fell on top of a boat. OMG. And she found Tatum. No. Then quote, watch out, Jamie. You know he's around. There he is. He's right around the corner. Randy narrating Halloween when Ghostface is literally walking up right behind him. And then he's like, behind you then. Turn around. Randy, you turn around. Ghostface is right there. Again, the satire, the parody, the making fun of itself. It is so good. And then I put, OMG, he killed the news guy. Ghostface. He stabbed her. Sydney, run. Gail finding Kidney. OMG. But it is kind of funny. She's get off my car. And she like is whipping around to get him off. But then, driving away, and then OMG, Gail crashing. Then I put, no, Dewey, OMG has a knife in the back. No, OMG, do not touch Dewey. Okay, I was so upset. Ghostface holding the keys is crazy. That is so taunting. Locking her in that car, and then she's trying to do the whole 911 thing on the police radio. And then I said, not the trunk opening. Here's where it gets good. Quote, we all go a little mad sometimes. Billy? OMG, Billy killed Randy. OMG. And then Billy says, Anthony Perkins, psycho. What? Hello? The movie reference? The fact that Billy consistently also references all these movies that are like Halloween, slasher, whatever, and they're kind of like his inspiration for things, like he's doing scenes from those movies or saying lines from those movies, it's really chilling. And then I said, all caps, Stu with the voice modulator is crazy. OMG. Quote, what's the matter, Sydney? You look like you've seen a ghost. Oh, it's so good. And then, surprise, Sydney. Oh, it is so good. Y'all, there's an edit on TikTok. It's got like millions of likes, but it is an edit of Stu and Billy. I don't know the song that it's overlaid, but those are the two quotes in it. And y'all, it is so good. You need to go look it up. And then, Sydney says, F you to Billy. And then he says, we already played that game. Remember? See, you lost. Oh, man, dude. Cold. And then I put in all caps, they framed Cotton Weary. We knew that. Okay, we knew. She's like, what's your motive, He has a quote, and he says, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid. And then I said, wait, Stu didn't know about the real motive. His face is shocked. When Billy starts talking about, your mom was having an affair with my dad, which is why my mom abandoned me, blah, 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 all this stuff. And then he says something like, abandonment can cause issues. That's why you had sex with a psychopath. First of all, crazy. Second of all, they cut to a shot of Stu where he's kind of like questioning. Stu has something wrong with him as well. He is for sure like not doing okay. But he does make a face like he did not know that Sydney's mom was the cause for Billy's family problems. He makes that face. So it's kind of interesting to me. I don't know. And then, Billy's got the knife to Sydney's throat and he says, it's after midnight, your mom's anniversary. What? That's crazy. OMG, her dad. Then I put in quotes, perfect ending. And then what the heck? Billy stabs Stu? That's crazy. They're both stabbing each other to make it more believable. They're both stabbing each other so that they can get away with it. But I also think they have some sort of like sick and twisted, like they enjoy it. I don't know. Then when it's Stu's turn to stab Billy, Billy's like, stay to the side. Don't go too deep. So he clearly knows where to stab someone to make them die versus not die. And then I said, run, Sydney, run. Hello? They're doing this whole like monologue. You should take your chance and leave, dude. What? And then Stu says, we get to carry on and plan the sequel. Okay, Scream 2. Like, that's so funny to me. That's just so satire. And then Billy said, movies make psychos creative, because I think Sydney says something about, you've watched all these movies and they make you a psycho, and he's like, no, horror movies or slasher movies, whatever, make psychos creative. Like, psychos are already psychos, which is, that's too deep for me to get into right now. And then I said, Billy stabbed the crap out of Stu, which is crazy. Like, do we think that Billy did that in a fit of rage, or do we think that Billy knew he would be killing Stu? Because he does tell Stu, stay to the side, don't go too deep. But then he stabs Stu enough to make Stu start crying. He's like, I'm feeling woozy, like all this stuff, whatever. And then I said, yo, way to go, Gail. Yes. And then again, quotes, you cut me too deep, from Stu. This next quote from Stu, my mom and dad are going to be so mad at me. Stu, what? That is what you're thinking about right now. A, you're about to die. B, you just murdered so many of your classmates and are in the midst of one as well. What? And then I put, OMG, Ghostface stabbed Billy with an umbrella and Halloween was playing with the closet scene. Again, parallels. It was Sid as Ghostface, obviously. Then Stu and Sid fight. Quote, I always had a thing for you, Sid, from Stu. And then she says, like, in your dreams or something. Which apparently both of those lines were ad-libbed. Fun fact. I just found that out earlier today. And then Randy's somehow alive. Like, they're like, you're not dead? And he said, I thought I should be. I never thought I'd be so happy to be a virgin. Once again, proving his rules are correct. That is so funny to me that, like, he genuinely, there's not a way on earth that he should still be alive. Like, from that. I don't know. Yes, Gail, I knew she was still alive. I knew she was faking it because Billy doesn't take the final shot and make sure she's dead because they get distracted and they go off. I knew Gail was going to come back. Quote from Randy. Careful, this is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life, and then Billy sits up, but Sydney just shoots him immediately. Okay, queen. She's like, not in my movie. Okay. Yeah, girl, not in your movie. This is your movie. And then, yay, Dewey's alive. It's really good. Happy ending. Kind of. Whatever. Absolutely incredible movie. My rating, I'm going to give this movie a 4.5 out of 5. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I can definitely see why it's now considered a classic in this genre. It's funny, satire, it's gory, it's mysterious, and honestly, it does keep you on your toes the entire time. I love all the references. I love how unhinged it got. It really is iconic. Pickle's pick for this week is As If We Never Said Goodbye from Sunset Boulevard. Y'all, Nicole does an incredible job performing this song. I've had this song on repeat. I love it. I love singing it. Thank you, Andrew Lloyd Webber, for this masterpiece. And thank you so much for tuning in, however you decided to do so. Please don't forget to like, comment, follow all the socials, and definitely share this podcast with every single person that you know. Check out the website as well. It's www.mckinseypickle.com. Let me know what you thought of this episode. If you liked me reading all my notes from when I was watching the movie, let me know what you think about Scream. What's your favorite horror movie? Do you like horror movies? What's your favorite Halloween tradition? Let's talk in the comments. Remember, you are loved and you are important. And now, it's time to close the jar. See you next time. Bye.